we've now climbed 2 mountains. The very first one, totally inexperienced as I was, I didn't know what to expect. We started at the bottom, very pretty, it was nice, it was warm, wonderful, but the further we climbed, the colder it became. And then the wind started blowing, and when we got halfway up the mountain, all the foliage was starting to disappear because of the altitude, and it started getting uncomfortable because, you know, cold by itself is okay, but not when you have winds that are starting at 20 to 30 mile an hour. And the further we climbed up, the heavier the winds became. And because there's a lot of danger in being trapped on the top of these mountains if a storm comes through, it was a little scary because there were swirling clouds and blackness in the sky, and we started at 4 in the morning. It was totally dark, but by the time we got 3/4 up, I was getting emotionally weak, actually. Physically I was okay, but I was questioning whether I had what I needed to make it to the top of this, because the winds were straight in our face, the snow was now blowing, and it was probably about 28 degrees, so the windshield, who knows. And we were not super dressed for this because we didn't realize it, because weather can change, and that's what it did up there. Well, we got to near the peak of it, and it was one step at a time. There was none of this standing up. It was crawling on hands and knees for the last hour at least. And we made it to the peak of the mountain. To get to the flag where it is official was so risky that we were about 30 feet from the flag, and we chose not to do that because we were on the top of this peak of the mountain. The trail to walk on was only about 8 inches wide, and it was 10,000 feet off on each side, and it was coated with the slipperiest ice on earth. And so when we finally said, hey, this is fine with us, we were just 30 feet away, I just stopped because we had to start to regenerate for the trip back down. It was a sacred moment. It was absolutely sacred. And I'll never forget it. It was that place that we all long for. It was home. And I felt it before in a few other areas of my life, of course, but it brought me to tears up there. It really did. I didn't care if I lived another moment. I was in heaven at that moment. But to touch that divinity with everything that just came at that certain perfection, from the weather, the mountains, the clouds, the snow, and the ice, and the pain that we had, and the pride, and the fear, it all was in this one little neat basket, and it was perfect. I didn't need to push anything away or pull anything to me. It was perfection of the moment. I posted on Facebook, if any brave soul would like to fly in a small plane to Colorado and climb a 14,000 foot mountain, let me know. I felt I would have no one who would say yes. Well, within probably 15 minutes, a lady I had met previously responded and said, that's my dream. My 2 dreams are to fly in a small plane and to be in Colorado and climb a mountain.
Last August, he posted on Facebook that he was going to fly to Colorado and go hiking, and would anyone want to go with him? And I said, yes, I want to go.
You know, when we talked the first time, when I told you about me climbing Mount Yale, which was the one I did first, and then I brought up the idea of Mount Quandary, which was the one we did climb. Did that spark a real deep feeling of adventure that made you want to do this?
Definitely. I mean, I always long for adventure.
The difference between the first and second trip, they both were almost equal as far as the physical challenge. The first one was more emotionally challenging to me. The second was a different kind of mountain, and we did have better weather, but it was a different kind of climbing. We actually had to climb over boulders on the second one far more than we did the first. As wonderful as the second one was, I didn't have quite the connection at the top that I had with the first mountain. We were starting our trip back down after we probably had stayed at the top for 30 to 40 minutes. Because you can't stay up too long because the storms will come in about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and that's when it becomes more dangerous. So after a 30-minute rest, we all started back down the mountain. And I was last, and just out of the clear blue, I see some movement to my right, and this mountain goat's coming straight up toward me. So I grabbed my cell phone and take a short video because I didn't think they would believe me. But he just worked his way past me, and I couldn't holler to them because the wind was blowing and they couldn't hear anything. So I just took it as it came, and it was really cool. It was like a greeting, and you know, good luck, you made it, have a safe trip down. Well, we left Chattanooga from Collegedale Airport and early in the morning, and we stopped at Springfield the first time. And then secondly, stop was at an airport called Dodge City, Kansas. We left there and flew on, and air traffic control said at a certain point, you have a huge weather front in front of you. And I said, okay. And they said, well, you have two options. You can either fly around the front, which in my head I could already determined would probably be an extra hour and a half because it was huge. Or you can pick your way through it, is what they said. And one other plane had done that a few minutes before, but that was it. And I turned to my passenger co-pilot kind of person, Lolly, and I kind of looked at her and she gave me thumbs up. And I was like, okay, let's do it. So we started a journey of, that may be not totally accurate, but somewhere probably around 35 to 40 minutes of going into a little opening in between massive castles of black clouds on one side and some apparent lightning on the other that was occasionally hitting. And it wasn't that big of an opening. But we could see through it kind of like you would a cave. And we continued to turn as we needed and go up when we needed, go down when we needed, anything to stay out of those clouds. Because getting in those convective black clouds is deadly. That's how people lose their life. We did always have an exit strategy. I would never have flown if we didn't. And air traffic control was so helpful. And so they were asking us, you know, what's the turbulence like? Is it okay up there? You know, what are you seeing? Because they can't see all this on their radar. They only see the big picture. And so we continued on, and to me, it was almost like a movie because of the visuals that we had. And the fact that most times when you're near this, you have a great amount of turbulence, but in our case, it was very smooth. Now, if we had gone left to right at any distance, it probably would have been very, very turbulent, but we stayed right in that sweet spot. And then when we came out, it kind of happened really quickly, and it was just like a whole new day, a whole new life that was like given to us at that moment. And I took the plane and I just turned it to the right like an eagle would in big winds, and we just flew out into the opening, and it was magic, just magic. I don't think it's as much about getting to the finish line, because I'm becoming less goal-oriented as I age. It's about being present in the moment in such a way that's so deep that the next moment doesn't matter anymore. This one is all I need. And if I make this moment exactly what it needs to be in my life, the next moment is going to be the same way, and it just keeps feeding itself.